Hi everyone, this is Julie. Thank you for stopping by to share with me today. I hope you're having a fantabulous day today, and I hope it's all going well for you thus far. In this video, I wanted to touch on something. Dr. Sebi did a talk some time ago, many years ago, and I saw that it was titled, "Our Leaders Have Betrayed Us," or something similar to that. And I think when I look at what's happening in the world in light of the whole COVID situation, we can see that in full effect. We can see how prime ministers, we can see how presidents, scientists, doctors, and all of these people that many of us hold in high esteem, how they continue to betray. Because when we look at what is being done, we can see that is something that is clearly orchestrated. For those of us who are aware of certain information, certain even basic information as it pertains to even the mainstream science, we know that based on what the information that is available and what we're told, there is no reason for all of this chaos and drama that is occurring. But that's the thing. The aim is to create chaos, and then out of that chaos, then they can usher in the order that they want. Now, I think we have to begin to look more to ourselves and be the leader for ourselves individually, and stop looking at people to tell us what to do. Because most of you, especially if you have been following the information that has been put out by Dr. Sebi, it usually leads you on a path where you begin to explore more. You want to know more. You want to understand more. You begin to see nature in a different way. You begin to see medicine in a different way. You begin to look at history in a different way. And that is all a part of the growth process. Now, one of the things that maybe we should begin to focus more on is leading ourselves. We have to become our own leaders. And the situation that we see unfolding with the whole COVID-19, it is deliberately done in such a way to cause chaos and confusion. Because when there's chaos, when people are confused, it's easy for them to not take the action that they need to protect themselves, or even to protect their children, their family, etc., because they don't know what to do. And this is why we often see that one scientist in the mainstream media, you have one scientist and one information saying one thing, and then another saying something else. And that is often done sometimes deliberately to cause confusion. And then the sad thing about it in many instances is that individual is never really hearing the truth. They're hearing too orchestrated side of the coin, so to speak. I'm not saying that's the case in all situations, but in some situations that's the reality. Now, going forward, I think we should begin to think about self-sufficiency more, becoming more self-sufficient, especially as it pertains to providing our own food. This is key going forward from here, providing our own food. Let me tell you, I remember when I went to the UK, first went to the UK about 5 years ago. When you go into the supermarkets, you could get seeded grapes and there were unseeded grapes. In the space of the 5 years that I was there, By the time I left the UK a couple months ago, almost, it's not quite 2 months yet, but there were I couldn't get seeded grapes in the supermarket. They were no longer available. And this is what happens. It begins slowly. And then next thing you know, they started doing it with the watermelons. So you would even buy organic watermelons and there are no seeds. How can it be organic and there are no seeds? And this is what happens. So give it a bit more time. You would go into the supermarkets or the markets. You buy a watermelon. There is no seed. We live on an abundant planet. When you buy, usually you buy your seeded grapes. You get so many seeds from one bunch of grapes. One bunch of grape could potentially produce dozens of grape plants. I know it grow on a vine. Dozens more it could produce. Now, same thing for the watermelon. One watermelon has so many seeds. So many seeds. You could probably get hundreds of new watermelon plants from one watermelon. If you take those seeds and replant them. And so it goes for so many other fruits. If you pick a sweet sop, several seeds. If some fruits have one seed, some may have two, depending on but there are seeds you can replant. But when they are devising ways and means to ensure that now when you go into the groceries, when you go into these food markets and you buy foods, you're getting foods that has no seeds in them. What does that mean? It means that sometime in the future, somebody else or some other entities will have total control over your food supply because you have no seeds. And so it's imperative that we begin to be responsible for our own food supply. A small plot of land. Maybe if you don't have land, maybe you can start on your kitchen countertop. You can start on your garden. In your garden, sometimes we use all our gardens for pretty flowers. And yes, it's nice to have beautiful flowers, but nature produces them in abundance. But we have orchestrated a world in which we don't always get foods as readily and as available as it was originally intended. And so, this is why some of that garden space that you have, the pretty flowers, you can plant some vegetables, plant a fruit tree, your favorite fruit. If you're in a climate that is conducive to that kind of plant, why not plant it? You might not reap it. Maybe it's even your children or grandchildren, but plant it. We have to begin to do these things. And because what I am seeing is that they want to control our food supply. They want to take control of our food supply. They want to control our food in every single way. Our food is being contaminated. The ones that they are supplying us is contaminated. The water is contaminated. The air is contaminated. So we have to begin bit by bit to take back that control. And so one of the ways that we can begin to do that is begin to plant our own food. Plant our own food, produce our own foods. Individually, as a family, and as communities. There are some communities now where people live natural. They live off the earth as natural as possible. And what one community or group or family doesn't produce, another might produce. And they barter. Yes, there are still people who live like that, where they produce foods, they barter. One family may have tomatoes, another might want cucumber, and so forth. And this is a way. Some of us don't want to think like this because we think it's so primitive, it's so down there, and so on. But in all seriousness, it's something that I am seeing that is being orchestrated, and so I wanted to talk about it. Because one thing I have noticed is that they always tell us what they intend to do. COVID-19, they tell us about this. They told us about this. Even crazy enough, the British Prime Minister getting COVID, even that was predicted years before he was even Prime Minister. How? Because it was orchestrated. It's all orchestrated. And so, and they tell us what they're going to do. COVID-19, they told us. They put it in the movies. They did Event 201. And they have been hinting at a food shortage for some time. And that is because they are putting situations into place where they are beginning to control the growth of certain foods, especially in some places in the world, especially in the Western world. They have more control. In America, in the UK, etc., these places, because many people rely on the supermarket for food. They look at you weird if there are trees growing outdoor and you pick something. Some people, it's like, because that's just it. Everything, the supermarket. And if you rely on the supermarket, it will be easy for your food supply to be controlled. And it's important that we spread the message. What Dr. Sebi teaches is important. It's fundamental. Not just now, not just yesterday, but going forward. It is, Dr. Sebi's message is more important today more than ever. And so it's imperative that you share the information. It doesn't necessarily have to be this video. It doesn't have to necessarily be this channel, but any channel or source of information that sheds light on certain things as it pertains to his teaching, as it pertains to natural foods, hybrid foods, natural plants, hybrid plants, and so on. Because Dr. Sebi often drops so many jewels in one lecture. Sometimes it's so much you learn from it that years of university never taught you. And so this is why I say it's important that we continue to share the information, that we understand that the way forward is self-sufficiency at the individual level, family, and community. Self-sufficiency. And one of the key things that we need to begin to do is to take control of our foods. We must be responsible for food supply. As I noted, whether it's from an individual level, family, community, start with you. Maybe nobody will be interested, but you can still start with you. Eventually, more and more people will become interested when they begin to see things that you're probably were trying to tell them unfolding right before their very eyes. Because the world that is being ushered in is not the world that is one of health and wellness. It's one that is of control, sickness, early death. And when we look at what's happening with the whole COVID situation, we supposedly have a World Health Organization, but they never talked about health though. Throughout the whole so-called situation where they told us that there's supposedly a virus, quote unquote, running rampant, how much health information did they give? How often did they tell people that they could turn to herbs if they need to help their body? How often did they tell people that they need to, eat certain types of foods, get fresh air, go in the sea, swim, enjoy nature? How often did they tell people that? No, they didn't. They didn't. And this is because many of us are listening to the wrong people. And so share Dr. Sebi's information is more imperative now than ever. Maybe you have a specific type of personality, or you can draw in certain people. Start a channel, start a blog, spread the information, share it with others. It's important that this information reach out into the community and touch those who, are not privy to it. And so that's what I wanted to touch on in this video. I know I've gone on longer than I thought I would. And, I hope it makes sense to you somehow. But I think this is important. I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Be the change you'd like to see in this world. Have a fantabulous day today. Ta-ta.